So it's been a while since we talked about an IPO, and today's company will be Camaroe. Now the name sounds very fancy, but in essence what they do is they specialize in farming, catching and then selling black tiger prawns.
Yes, exactly.
Very unique. But before we go into more detail, too busy to find stock ideas? Check out FIRL Pro to shortcut your research time and effort by 90%. 10% off link in the comments and description. These are some of the IPO details that you need to take note of. So it's $14 per share. That's going to be the opening price. Market cap, you're looking at nearly 70 million ringgit. Small company, and no surprise, for a very unsexy business, the PE is about 9, right? We are always used to 15, 20, 25. So the closing date for the application is actually the 12th of September. So by the time this video comes out, you actually have quite a bit of time still left to apply. So if you want to apply, Jonathan will walk you through the process on Moomoo. You can actually gain access to this in one of our links in the comment section and description.
So if you are a new user or you haven't signed up to Moomoo yet, we highly recommend you to do so because you'll be getting a lot of these newbie
Benefits,
rewards over here, a lot of rewards. And if you key in our code, which is FIRL24 in the exclusive deposit segment, you will get an additional 40 ringgit of cash rewards. And you also can subscribe the Camaroe Berhad's IPO using their platform. All you need to do is later you just follow our instructions right at the end of it, and you will see the company over here, and you can subscribe however amount you want to sub for this company. So yeah, let's dive into
so
their
this
business.
is a very rare business model among listed companies in Malaysia. So you can see the two main products are live black tiger prawns and live
Vaname
shrimp.
Yeah. So Vaname shrimp is a slightly little smaller. I think this is more the common one. When you go to restaurants and eat, I think you see these more. Then the second common one, which is the black tiger prawn. Then the third one, which is a larger size a little bit. So this prawn is called big head prawn, or in Cantonese it's called tai tau ha.
Yeah.
This
is the one with a lot of things you can suck from the head.
Yes. It's very nice.
It sounds like they do quite premium sounding prawns.
Yeah, the second most sold prawn in, I would say, maybe around the world, or maybe in Malaysia, it is this live black tiger prawn.
And so they have about 6 farms. And the markets that they operate in is China, no surprise, Malaysia, South Korea, Taiwan, Australia.
So they got 5 farms over here actually. Tanjung Karang, Marang Farm, and also
they have one processing facility.
Yeah, exactly. And what they do is basically they just farm and they process black tiger prawns. So last time they used to also farm this Vaname shrimp, but because they find it not so profitable as compared to tiger prawn, so they switch it and they just farm this black tiger prawn only.
Right.
Yeah, so they stopped doing this. So that is their simple business. And you can see that how they source their black tiger prawns is majority, or 80% is coming from their own farms, whereas the 20% actually comes from the third party. So meaning to say they just like buy it from other parties to sell it. And you can see the revenue by geography. China is the one that is the market. Yeah, so it's about 62%. And then followed by South Korea, which is about 8%.
Yeah.
And then the
it's
second largest
basically around 2/3 China, 1/3 Malaysia, more or less.
Yep. And if you look at their revenue by product, right? So they categorize into frozen and also live. So frozen, obviously, that means you have to go through some sort of processing. You need to store inside the fridge or cold storage, and then the customers may demand whether they want headless or they want a head on or shell on, or they want peeled one. So they categorize it into this kind of like segment, and you can see that majority of it actually comes from the frozen black tiger prawns, which is head on and also shell on. So you can see that their latest number over here, which is FY 2024, the contribution is about 79%, whereas the live prawns is about like 20%-ish. And if you can look at the gross profit margin, the one that is commanding the highest one is the black tiger prawn. So last time they used to sell, the Vaname, they used to farm, but because this black tiger prawn has a higher gross margin, so they decided to just sell more of this. But if you notice over here, right, the 2024 numbers, you can see that the live prawns actually increase in terms of their gross margin. So previously they are about like 20%, but the number bumped it up to like 30%, 32%. And the reason why is because, they already explained it over here. Essentially, they did some contract farming agreement with this SW L enterprise, and then under this agreement, they have the rights to purchase all the prawns harvested from this particular farm at their operating costs and expenses, and also plus a 10% markup. So essentially, they managed to buy it probably at cheaper price, and then they can sell it and then make like a decent type of like gross margin. Okay, industry, we can see that. So there's 4 types of prawns over here. So there is black tiger prawn, mainstream, a giant freshwater prawn. This is the tai tau ha is related to that, and also lobster. And if you look at the ASP, obviously the most expensive one, it is the lobster, then followed by the giant freshwater prawn, then followed by black tiger prawn, and then vaname. And then you can see that the vaname has the highest production volume and also wholesale value. Is because obviously it's cheaper.
But of course, the margins are, I'm guessing, the lowest.
The lowest one, yeah, correct. As compared
so
to
is
like
it true that if they do, well, they don't really do lobsters, but like for giant freshwater and black, am I right to say the freshwater giant is more profitable than the black tiger in terms of margins, or
margins? These I'm not too sure, but probably is.
Yeah,
If based on like cost of the number one, the size. They also see the prawn size. So the bigger the prawn size, the higher the margin.
Okay.
Is. Yeah. But usually giant freshwater, it's only like they bought and sold inside Malaysia, within Malaysia, not so much of overseas.
I see.
Yeah. And you also can see that there's an oversupply situation in terms of the export value for black tiger prawns. You can see that previously, the frozen black tiger prawns export value is actually increasing until 2023 because there was a supply chain disruption over here. So that's why China, South Korea cannot like buy prawns from Malaysia. Then once they manage to like satisfy the demand over here, then it starts to normalize. But you can see that the number actually didn't really hit back to pre-pandemic's level because of this oversupply situation.
Right.
Yeah, there's an overflow over there. And you also can see that the average selling prices also start to drop. So previously, you can see that black tiger prawns is around like 65 to 66 ringgit per kg. But in 2025's number, the prices actually start to drop to like 51 ringgit per kg. And this one is for frozen. And for live one, is even more cheaper. It's about 33 ringgit per kg. Their market share, they also... I was quite surprised when I saw that they have quite a big market share over here. So they have like a...
It's a very niche market, actually.
Yeah, correct, exactly. So that's why they managed to, they transition a little bit. Initially, they sell a little bit more in Malaysia, but once they see more demand is coming from China and also Korea, so they spend more money into expanding those areas, and hence they also managed to capture more market share over there. Okay, so this is the entire list of companies that also do the same thing as them. So you can see there's 2 listed companies over here. One is MAG. They also do farming and also processing for black tiger prawns and also for vaname. Then there's also another one that is recently listed, and we also did cover this company previously. I think it was like 1 or 2 years ago, which is SBH Marine. So not only they just like harvest black tiger prawn, but they also do harvest like cuttlefish, squid, octopus, all this kind of thing. And then there's like a huge bunch of like other Senjang Berhads.
And by far, they're the most profitable, you're pointing out.
Sure.
Of course, we have to be careful. This is, again, research that is done by them. So nevertheless, I find it quite glaring actually.
Yeah,
they are so much better.
Exactly, they are like the outlier over here. I mean, you can see that other companies that are making losses to like 10%, low teens, but this one is like high 20%.
It seems to me that some of the others may have multiple businesses going at once, so maybe that drags down the margin.
Yep, could be. Or maybe also it's because their size is still quite small.
Yeah,
you see the revenue is like 39 million,
Exactly.
whereas the others is like 60, 100. Okay, you also can see that the gross margin, net margin, and also for ROIC, you can see that for MAG, obviously MAG, this one is about 30% gross margin, which is similar to Camaroe's. You can see also they are about like 32%. For net margin, the MAG's one also is actually down a little bit. It's like 12%. On average, it's like 13-14% net margin. Whereas for Camaroe, it's 20% on average, which is remarkable. And then last but not least, we have over here, which is the return on investor capital. So you notice MAG's one is actually very low. It's about like 0%. Right now, it's about 4%. Whereas for like SBH, this one is like in the negative territory. Later, we're going to be looking the ROIC numbers for Camaroe later on, and then we can do a little bit of comparison with that. Okay, so why we are covering this company, right? It's because recently there's a coverage by Mercury, and they initiated a buy call on MAG, which is their competitor. So for MAG's case, you can see that about 60% of the sales are exported, and they're also exporting to the same market, which is China and South Korea. Recall the previous stats that we share, right? For Camaroe, they sell about 70% to China and then about like 19% each to South Korea. And what they say is that, Mercury has another like probably a 30 to 40% upside based on current share price of 80 cents a share.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, it has been a while since we have seen like an institution who does like coverage on this prawn farming industry. And right now they're doing it. So probably there will be some sort of like, interest going around this industry. Okay, so the team, a very, very simple one. Number one, we have the MD or co-founder over here. So he basically just walked
Almost 30 years, yeah.
prawn
So,
farming
like,
companies for all years.
His wife is also involved in the business.
Yes.
No surprise in finance, yeah.
Yeah, finance, HR, admin, and then
Okay.
last but not least, we have the same
Brother?
one. Yeah, this is not a brother.
Oh.
They're actually not related, even though they have the
Interesting.
same surname. Yeah, so
Cousins, not even cousins.
yeah, not even
Wow.
cousins. Yeah, so yeah, he's a farm manager. He also worked in this prawn farming company for quite a number of years. But what's interesting is that last time he used to work as a civil engineer. He started off working in the construction, then followed by technician in prawn farming company. Then after that, he joined Camaroe. Okay, you also need to know that they will be selling some shares post IPO. So Mr. Teo and also his wife will be selling, a few millions of shares when they go list. So this is something that you need to know. And as for remuneration, I noticed that the number, it looks very high. I mean, if you look at their remuneration against profit
Yep,
before
yep,
tax, and the
yep.
reason why is because it's high is the dividends payout.
Yeah.
So
So if you exclude it,
it's about 7%.
yeah, which is okay. Yeah.
It's not too bad. But there's also already a sign that, since they're going listing out, that's why they're trying to pay out as more dividends as possible before they list. Okay, numbers. Obviously, the numbers looks very good. Margins is at around 30% gross margin. And then net margin is even more impressive. It's like a tech kind of
Yeah.
like margin, 20%-ish. They are in a net debt position for financial year 2024. There's a huge bump over here is because they acquired a piece of land over there to build the new Bukit Raja processing facility over here. And then for cash flow wise, you can see that also, I mean, it has been quite decent, around 8 million in OCF. CapEx also is not so much. It's about like
Yeah, classic IPO numbers, right?
Yep.
That's what I feel.
Yep. And then dividends, obviously, because they are cashing out. So they are paying the shareholders or the owners back before they lease. Okay, for return on capital, I mean, it looks very decent also. If you compare with MAG and also for SBH, MAG is around like 4% ROIC, whereas for SBH, this one is on the negative. But so far, they managed to make like 23%. But one concerning thing is that the
trend,
is actually going down. So not sure whether the next, once they lease and then the next few quarters, how the ROI will be like.
Is it linked closely to the debt increase as well?
Yes. Yeah. One thing also is that increase. Another thing is that, of course, they are expanding also. So that's why it's getting depressed. So we need to see whether the demand, can satisfy the whatever
And I'm sorry,
production that they expand.
can you remind me, like, what's the growth rate of the industry roughly?
So it's about so according to the industry expert, they say it's about 6 to 10%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Yeah.
But I don't really trust them.
Okay.
Yeah, because right now there's still like an oversupply situation. So
Right.
we're not sure whether can they grow
Right.
also.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, for investment merits, so here is some of the growth and risks about this company. Number one, very simple thing. Obviously, they want to expand their production capacity. So it's going to double their whatever capacity they have right now. But this doubling in capacity will only be seen in 2029. So it's another like 4 more years.
Very long.
Okay, yeah. And the second one, which is they want to venture into these antibiotic-free prawns. They also did mention these prawns gross margin is actually quite high, but they didn't specify what is the margin. So assuming they say it's high, right? And right now they're making about 30% margin. So maybe we can expect the figure to be above 30% to maybe even 50%. But this is going to be a very niche product because it's going to be a very expensive. Obviously, it's like an organic prawn like that. You're not going to feed them like antibiotics. So most likely the market that they're going to be selling to is going to be the US and also the Australia. But that is still in the works in the plan. Okay, so some risks over here. Number one we have is disease outbreak. This is very common for any processing or farming of aquatic fishes inside the farm. Disease is very easy to come by. So that's why they need to have some sort of probiotic supplements.
Control, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then they also need certain space to move around their prawns. So in case let's say one of the pond are contaminated, then they need to shift it out. So it's very important to not put all their ponds into just one pond. They need to have a few ponds over there. A second one, which is maintenance work. So during times where they need to wash, clean up the pond, right, it will actually affect their output. So that will be one of the key factors that will affect their sales also.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is one of the risks that you need to take note of. And last but not least is the dropping ROIC. So right now they are in the expansion phase. So that's why there's not much of a return that we can see at the moment. There's more capital that is going outlay for future returns. So we can only see whether in the future, whether this number can improve or maybe it will maintain. Even though if they maintain, I think it's a pretty decent business already as compared to like MG and SB. Okay, so for final thoughts, the oversupply situation is still like persisting and the demand have not recovered. Although during the briefing, the CEO got say that demand is still quite strong. I mean that's what CEO also say Yeah. Okay, second one, which the number is better than their peers. Obviously, he can
according
see
to them,
the number. And then the third one, which is they are in a B2B business. Mainly, they sell their products to like wholesalers, to other companies in China, in Korea. But they also plan to venture into B2C, which is their antibiotic-free products. But this one is not going to be seeing that anytime soon until maybe like in 2029 or hopefully earlier if let's say they manage to like build a new prototype about this. The fourth one is actually didn't know that there was a tax incentive in this industry. So they have tax incentive, but then in 2024 they didn't manage to like renew. So that's why the tax rate is back to normal. And I think for conservative sake, you just expect their tax rate to be like normal, and they didn't get their pioneer status. Okay, another thing, which is they have an unresolved court case. However, this court case is actually, right now it seems like they are in the lead. They are like winning this case. They have the evidence in place. But then, obviously, there's still like time for another hearing. So they are pretty confident that they say that they will win this case. But assuming the worst case did happen, right, they didn't manage to like beat the plaintiff, then there will be like a 1.5 million in terms of like, cost in terms of court. But even though if let's say they win, right, they will still be in a negative 50,000-ish because they need to pay like 100,000 to their lawyers. So anyhow, it's still like pretty much a lose-lose situation. But although if let's say they win, they will lose a small. Okay, last but not least is whether this valuation is fair. Right now, they're trading about like 8.59 times price to earnings ratio. If you compare with MAG, right now they are about like 7 times. So I would say like their valuation is pretty much already like there. But if you are pricing into the the double in terms of production capacity,
then it definitely looks cheap, right?
Yeah, definitely it will be look cheaper. But also you need to know whether would the demand recover by then, which is in 2029.
Yeah, I think the challenge is the 2029 4-year difference, because right now, if you believe that 2029 is going to happen, then what I would do is in that position is to actually start looking at it in 2027 maybe, right? Because it's a bit too early right now. And then to your point about the demand for prawns, I think that seems to be one part of the Malaysia-China relationship that is quite stable. I don't mean just prawns, but like durians and all that. It's still quite consistent. So there's that, and I suspect they are exporting from us because they can't have these blackwater prawns in China.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So because of weather and whatsoever.
Yeah, so there's a natural mode, you can call it there. So I'm not too worried whether it can return back to the demand, but I'm just more concerned about the IRR as far as the time for the factory. And then the second thing is, of course, whether it will grow at 6 to 10%, right? If it does, at their current stage, what is attractive is that they are in a decently growing industry and they already have 25% market share. So that means they will eat a big chunk of the growth of the industry. And so these are things that are positive. More work we should do is to look at the execution history of the company, right? And we cannot rely on merely the prospectus because, like I said, the prospectus produced by the company. Yes, vetted by third parties, but the third parties are paid by the company. So so these are the different things that I would definitely want to be concerned with. Long story short, I think the timing right now is just not that attractive.
Yep, but if you are still interested in this company, you can subscribe in the Mubu platform and you can use our referral link in the description and comments. And also make sure to get all of these freebies over here. You can have 100 ringgit cash rewards if you deposit like 1,000 ringgit into the account. And then if you deposit even more money, you can get like free shares, which is like NVIDIA shares. And if you use our code FIRE2024, you can get an additional 40 ringgit in terms of cash rewards. And how you can subscribe to Camaroe is follow these 3 simple steps. Actually, it's just one step only. If you guys downloaded the Mumu app already, all you need to do is just go to, okay, so this one, if let's say you don't have an account, number one, obviously you need to create an account first, follow these steps. Once you already have an account, you just need to tap on markets and then click on Malaysia, MYO here, which is on the top side. And then you just scroll a little bit, you will find the IPO segment, and then you'll see Camaroe's name over there. And then you just click subscribe, and then just insert whatever amount you plan to subscribe to this company. And it's as simple as that. So make sure to use our referral link and get yourself all of those freebies rewards. And that's about it for today's video. You can check out FIRL Pro as well while you're at that. This is our August 2025 update. So far so good. We are up 38%, better than last month and also a few more months earlier. The global portfolio is
At this
growing.
rate, I think September will be higher as well.
Yep, global portfolio is better also. And then boring portfolio also is good, doing very decently because of one of the stock that we just initiated recently, and right now it's going up. So if you want to know what are the names behind these companies, make sure to subscribe to FIRL Pro, and you can have a 10% off by clicking on the description and comments. Just key in the coupon code 10% off, and you get a 10% discount. So what is FIRL Pro about? It's basically where we share our write-ups about companies that we find interesting. And essentially, if you want to know about this company's history, management, numbers, risk, prospect, all of those good stuff, you can just read it in a 10 to 15 minute write-up, and then you already can know about 90% of the company. And the remaining 10%, all you need to do is just to decide whether you plan to like buy or you just hold. Simple as that. And not just a write-up, but we also do share management notes when we meet like CEOs, when we meet insider experts. We get some information that might not be available to public. That's where we also share it to our FIRL Pro members. So there's a lot of juicy information over there. And if you want to be part of it, make sure to subscribe. The links will be in the description.
Yeah, to get a taste, you can check out our free samples. The link is in the comment and description. So one of the companies, model companies that we have inside as far as write-up goes is Kellington. So Kellington has done really well. Since we covered it, it just went up many times, right? How many times?
Probably like 3-4 times already.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, so if you want to check out, get a taste, free samples where it's at. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.